So today we are in the wonderful port of Funchal, Madeira.
And the weather is looking absolutely spectacular. A little bit hazy, but it is absolutely beautiful today.
First things first then, we got up and headed for breakfast.
Again, while we were getting ready, we joined the virtual queue, and before we knew it, we were once again called straight down to breakfast.
And very, very easy again this morning. For breakfast then, this morning I had crunchy nut cereal to start with, and then I had sort of all English, but it was bacon, sausage, beans and hash brown. All very, very nice.
The breakfast menu tends to be exactly the same day to day, but it is fairly extensive with lots of choice and options available. I opted to go for a fresh fruit salad, and once again I chose to have the eggs Benedict. Gary Bembridge would be proud because those poached eggs were absolutely perfect. Breakfast is in the Peninsula restaurant down on deck 6, and we've been quite lucky with our tables.
Really good table once again. Along with breakfast we also had a couple of orange juices, and I had a tea and you had a coffee. All very, very prompt, so very good service.
We then made our way downstairs to Java because we needed a little bit more of our daily coffee fix, and got a couple of premium coffees from the cafe downstairs. It's a nice area, it's got its own seating. You can also order a whole host and range of specialty teas, different types of coffees. You can also order frappes, and once again, if you're on a package, they're included.
Also, while you're waiting for your coffee, you can keep an eye out on the dance lessons that are going on in the atrium, because Java is located right on the atrium, and once again we could see dance lessons taking place.
Dancing seems to be quite popular on board. Very traditional. Very nice.
So we took our coffees then up on to the prom deck and had a little walk around.
Just to get a bit of fresh air, have a look at Funchal, and it was a really, really nice walk. We walked all the way around to the aft of the ship, and we could see that Aida Nova was parked directly behind us.
So Aida Nova is the sister ship to Iona and Arvia, and she's just as big, and when you're out there looking, she looks massive compared to Azura.
After having a little brief walk on the prom, we headed back to the cabin just to pick up our rucksack and our few bits that we needed for the day. Now, we did bring hoodies and a jumper just in case it got a little bit chilly, but we didn't need them in the end, so we ended up just carrying them around Funchal all day. But never mind, who knew?
Better to be prepared, isn't it?
Absolutely. We hadn't booked or planned any excursions in Funchal. We'd previously visited and done the cable car as well as the toboggans. Once you disembark the ship and step out of the terminal, there are many excursions available that you can book on the day, whether it's with a local taxi firm or one of the famous tuk-tuks. We got off on deck 6, but there was an accessible exit on deck 5 for anybody with any walking impairments. It was just handy to know. P&O had laid on a shuttle bus, and it was £4 each way. It's a relatively short journey. We took it previously when we visited on Arvia a few weeks ago. So today we decided to walk, didn't we?
It's actually quite a pleasant walk, wasn't it? It didn't take too long, probably about 10-15 minutes to walk from the ship itself, around the port and into Funchal.
Funchal Port is a fascinating place because they've got little murals of all the different ships that have docked here over the years, and really interesting. Some familiar names and some that no longer really exist.
The wall is dedicated to different ships that have docked there. Okay, so after we walked into Funchal itself, the first thing that we came across was the CR7 Museum, which is the area dedicated to Ronaldo.
We missed it on our previous trip, so we were quite looking forward just to sort of taking the opportunity to get a few photos, have a look around, and it was very busy.
There was a lot of people wanting photos with that Ronaldo statue.
There's like a little museum there and a little cafe that you can sit in and have a drink.
Yeah.
Quite a nice little port area.
Absolutely, really enjoyed that little walk from the port to the Ronaldo statue. We then headed up into the gardens area of Funchal, where you head up some stairs as you exit the port. Great little place to walk around, and it did feel quite calm, and it's a lovely place to enjoy.
The large park at the top of the hill overlooks the port, so we got some good shots of both Azura and Aida Nova. And there's a beautiful little fountain, a seating area just outside of all the hustle and bustle of the main town.
From there we headed towards the main town now. Had a little wander around a couple of the streets.
Not far from the park was the shuttle bus drop off and pick up point, and in terms of walking, 20 minutes to get there. If you're looking to save yourself a couple of pounds, then I definitely recommend that you walk it, because it's all flat and it's not too far at all. There's another quite nicely kept park where the main auditorium is in Funchal. Again, lovely little cafes there, so you can sit down and sort of spend your time. And just off that is a shopping centre and the Madeira wine tasting experience.
After we battled our way through the tours on the way for a wine tasting that we accidentally stumbled upon, we headed back into the main town area of Funchal. Lots going on ready for the carnival.
Lots of stalls all set up, selling traditional Portuguese, Madeiran drinks and foods.
If you've seen our earlier vlog, those same huts that we used as Christmas markets are now set up as food and drink outlets for the carnival. We made a mental note about these huts because we thought we'll come back and have a couple of drinks or something from one of these huts later on. But as we were on an exploring mission, so we headed further into the town and came across our first church.
Centred off quite a nice square.
Unfortunately, we didn't go into the church because there was a service taking place, so we continued on. We then headed through another square with a beautiful fountain and came across our second church. This church did not have a service going on, so this time we headed in. The church itself was beautifully decorated.
Painted from floor to ceiling, and the detail was absolutely incredible. They were offering tours to go up the tower, which cost €1. We didn't actually do it because there was a little bit of a queue, but the church itself was absolutely magnificent. Across the road from the church there was the town hall, again really historic building with lots of detail, and there was a little fountain in the middle of this tiny little courtyard. Beautiful, beautiful buildings.
Yeah, because that courtyard was nice and cool, wasn't it? So we could sit there and just relax for a few minutes, cool off before we headed back out in the sun. We were a little bit hungry now, so we headed back towards those huts that we spoke about earlier on.
And the first thing we wanted to try was a traditional Madeiran drink, which is a poncha.
Poncha, and it was very, very tasty. The small measure that they gave us was deadly. It's very alcoholic.
It's a traditional drink where you can have honey, orange, passion fruit. You know, it's mixed with a variety of different juices. We chose to have the orange one. I think it's a rum-based drink, and yeah, as Tom said, it was very strong.
The alcohol comes from sugar cane, and it's then traditionally either orange or lemon flavoured.
So we sat there and took in the ambience, drinking our little poncha.
We were sat on AstroTurf catwalk, really, weren't we, what it looked like, sipping our poncha, and it was very, very hot at this point now. So we also fancied a little bite to eat. Another one of the huts was a local type of food, which was kind of like a bread with chorizo inside, and then they put garlic butter on it.
You can also have this with ham and cheese, ham, bacon, you know, lots of different fillings, but we chose to have chorizo and garlic butter, and it was absolutely beautiful.
Really, really tasty. I recommend if you get a chance to try that, give it a go.
And it was only €3, which we thought was incredibly cheap.
Very cheap. After that then we headed back towards that Ronaldo statue because we thought, let's see if we can get our photo, and much quieter this time, so we did manage to do a couple of poses with him. If you do go to Madeira, I think everyone wants that photo, don't they? Get there on the way back because there's no point going there on the way because there is much bigger queues. From there we headed back round to the port, so we walked back round to the ship again and got straight back on board, no queuing at all.
A really, really good embarkation process to get back onto Azura. No queue, no waiting, straight on. I think it did help the fact that we weren't leaving Funchal until 10 o'clock in the evening, so that gave people a lot more time to sort of explore and take their time. Even though we tried the traditional bread in town, we were still a little bit peckish, so we headed straight up to the pool deck on deck 15, and we thought we'd try out the poolside grill.
We hadn't been there yet, so we tried a burger and you had a hot dog.
Both with chips, and really, really nice.
different to obvious burgers, but really nice.
The weather was absolutely beautiful, so we decided to spend a little bit of time up by the pool deck, just sunning ourselves in the glorious weather. Up on the pool deck, because a lot of people were out and about exploring Funchal, in terms of getting a sunbed, it was really, really easy, and we got a beautiful spot just above the main pool area. Really, really lucky. We did spend a couple of hours up there, and as time went by, it obviously got a lot more busy when people were returning and getting back on the ship.
After our time on deck, we then headed back up to the cabin to get ready for tonight.
We got ourselves ready in the cabin. We joined the virtual queue about half an hour before we wanted to eat. And once we were finished, a lovely little notification pinged up to say table was ready. So once again, we made our way down to the Meridian restaurant on deck 5. I don't know why, but on Azura, the Meridian restaurant for your evening meal is always quieter.
Definitely much quieter.
There tends to be a lot more people in the virtual queue for the Peninsula restaurant than the Meridian. And we can't understand why, because essentially they're both identical. It's just one's on floor 5 and the other is on deck 6.
And both those dining rooms offer freedom dining, so you can go at any point. There is a further dining room on board Azura called Oriental, and that is fixed dining.
You can choose freedom dining or fixed dining when you make your booking.
So for my starter tonight, I had the tomato soup, and it was very, very tasty.
I opted to go for the grilled halloumi with figs and bacon, and it was absolutely delicious. I was a little bit disappointed when it first came out because the halloumi was a tiny little sliver. However, it was presented absolutely beautifully and it tasted delicious. I would definitely have it again.
We also had some focaccia bread.
It's got to be the biggest sort of slice of focaccia
It's
I've
like
ever
a brick
seen. It was like a wedge of focaccia, and it was beautiful. Really, really nice. Really enjoyed the bread selection on Azura.
For my main course then, I tried something that I'd never had before, and I went for quail. You weren't so keen because to you when it arrived it looked like a baby chicken, but it tasted nice, so I really enjoyed it.
I didn't really fancy any of the sort of new things on the menu, so I went for the sirloin steak. It came with chips, a lovely pot of hollandaise sauce. However, the steak was really, really tough.
I don't know what happened with your steak this time, because I had that steak a few days ago and it was beautiful. It must have just been the cut, maybe.
The couple that was sat next to us, they booked a 2-week cruise. This is the 2nd week of their cruise, and they even said that last week the steak was absolutely fabulous. This week it's gone downhill, so I suppose you just can't pick it, can you?
And then for dessert, I had a wonderful piece of carrot cake. Really, really tasty.
And I had the bread and butter pudding, and I had little meringue kisses on top for some reason, but it was beautiful. Really, really enjoyed it. We had a couple of glasses of Merlot.
Merlot today, didn't we? We tried the Merlot,
which was very nice, actually.
Very tasty.
Definitely one of the cheaper wines on the menu. I think it was
$5.25
a glass. We've got the drinks package. The Merlot was really, really nice.
Yeah. After we left the Meridian dining room, we headed through the ship past the atrium. Again, some ballroom dancing going on, so there's plenty here for those ballroom dancing fans, because as we know on the newer ships, Iona, Arvia, hardly any of that you'll see at all. Much more traditional cruise experience on board here on Azura. We were heading towards the Manhattan bar,
the aft on deck 7,
because we wanted to go and see the performance tonight, which was Perfectly Paloma.
It was really busy in there in terms of seating. Unfortunately, Sisters on the Seas were in the building and we managed to get a seat by them.
So we watched a bit of Perfectly Paloma, which is performed by a lovely, really talented lady named Sammy Lomax, and we really enjoyed that performance.
It was really, really good, incredibly talented. We both really enjoyed Paloma Faith.
And she got the audience involved. We were doing a little bit of raving dance moves across the audience, so yeah, really, really enjoyed that. We had a little chat with Sisters on the Seas as well, and they headed off to Sindhu for their dinner tonight. We then headed to the main theatre for tonight's performance, Blame It on the Boogie.
The performance was by the main headline performers that are based here on Azura. It was a
70s disco inspired theme that was set around like a radio show, I think it was meant to be. The performances were really good, really energetic, loved all that music. Their costumes were questionable. Bless them. Their costumes just weren't the best, were they? They weren't ideal. Some of the fittings in the costumes, you could tell maybe they'd been reused by a few different performers over the time. But the performance itself, fantastic. The music, fantastic. Singing, great. We really enjoyed that show.
Tom and myself had pre-booked all of our entertainment performances in advance of boarding Azura, because you're able to do that 14 days prior to boarding. It was incredibly busy, and I mean busy. We couldn't see any free seats. It was an absolutely packed theatre.
So make sure, if you're wanting to go there, pre-book if you can, and if you can't, get there early. After that fantastic show, Blame It on the Boogie in the main theatre, we then headed straight up to the top deck, because today it is silent disco.
We love a silent disco, and we were really looking forward to it. It was up on deck 15 and 16 as we were doing the sail away from Funchal, so we're really excited.
It was strange silent disco. Pool area was quite quiet. Everyone congregated on the top deck, probably because it was much better views of our sail away from Funchal. We once again met Sisters of the Seas after they had finished their meal in Sindhu, and we had a good couple of hours out there.
The sail away from Funchal was absolutely spectacular. All of those twinkling little lights that go all the way up the hill or the mountain. What a breathtaking sail away. It was beautiful.
It's got to be one of our favourite ports. The sail away does look spectacular.
After the sail away then, we sort of fully took part in the silent disco, but unfortunately as we made our way out to sea away from Funchal, it got a little bit windy and much cooler.
Yeah, it did. We gave up on the silent disco and headed back down into the Manhattan bar once again and enjoyed a bit of late night disco.
Manhattan, down on deck 7 aft, is the late night disco venue, really large. I wouldn't say it was really popular, the late night disco.
No, not the most popular. There's lots of other things going on the ship.
So we had a few cocktails, we had a few Prosecco's, we definitely made full use of the drinks package.
Yes.
With the Sisters on the Seas, just having a good old chat and just really enjoying the music and the evening.
And then it was time for, once again, for Dom to head up to the late night buffet.
You say it as if you didn't come with me.
Well, I did come with you, and I had a lovely hot chocolate.
And curry, chips.
You know, I had a little bit of curry and chips, but what did you have?
Oh, I had a mismatch of everything.
Yeah.
I had sandwiches, I had a selection of cold meats for some reason, a few slices of salami, and then I filled the rest of my plate up with cheese and crackers.
You did.
I did. The great thing about P&O and the late night buffet is you can actually get hot chocolate. So Tom had one while he was eating his dinner, well, supper. Then we took 2 hot chocolates to bed with us.
So we came back to the cabin, finished off our hot chocolate, and it was time for bed. Tomorrow, hopefully we won't be up so early, as we are having one more sea day.
And our last formal night. So they've come in quick succession.
We shall let you know what happened in our next video.
And that was our day in Funchal on the wonderful P&O Azura. If you've got any comments or questions, just pop them in the box below and we'll get back to you.
And please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. We've got lots more content available on our YouTube channel, so press that subscribe button. If you're interested in receiving daily updates, we're available on most social media platforms. Just search for Tom and Dom Travel.